Hello, my name is Chantra Williams, and welcome to my story. This is through Project Sleep, sponsored by Rising Voices, and thank you for helping my voice to rise to the occasion of sharing my story with having a sleep disorder. I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, had a great childhood. I didn't begin to have symptoms of what I learned in the future was narcolepsy until I got to about junior high. So throughout today, we're going to play a game called I Spy. If you spy any of these five symptoms, I want you to pay extra close attention to how I discovered what that symptom actually was, keeping in mind I had no idea what narcolepsy was. So we are at Weber Junior High School to the point where I am in ninth grade. I'm old enough to get ready to take driver's training, transition to Buena Vista High School, and now I am in driver's training. And high school is hard. Junior high was getting weird because I kept falling asleep. So here's that I Spy: excessive daytime sleepiness. So for me, that just looked like falling asleep in class. Going home to clean up, I would sit on the bed and then I'd wake up realizing that I had completely fallen asleep. I wasn't even aware of how long I was asleep. I would get in the car when I got picked up from school, and all of a sudden we'd be home. I couldn't even remember the drive. I was always tired. My mom was concerned, and we went to the doctor. They tested me for low iron. They found out that I did have anemia, and they thought, oh, problem solved. So, one of the reasons narcolepsy is difficult to diagnose is because some symptoms are common, like fatigue. Some symptoms are not as common. I realized that I was dead tired at 3 o'clock after school and could barely make it home. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be fully alert or awake. Or there'd be different times: 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, when I'd be completely alert and ready for the world. And yet, the times when I wanted to be alert, I couldn't quite control that. In addition, things were starting to happen, and I wasn't sure if I was having nightmares or what, but I knew for certain that this was something different that I had never experienced. One of the experiences was at my grandmother's house. I was on the couch. We were watching The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston, and I was stuck in my own sleep. My body could not move. I felt paralyzed. And at the same time, I felt like I could see and hear everything. I just couldn't interact with anything. And so it was really terrifying. During the same time, I had my first boyfriend, and keep in mind, they're still trying to figure out, why is this girl always falling asleep? And so the next thing they tested me for was mono. Now, during that time, they thought mono was called the kissing disease. So I was terrified. I was like, oh no, I knew I should have not had my first kiss. What I later went on to realize was, one, it wasn't mono. Two, I had an instance where we would watch TV together and I would laugh and my neck would drop back. And I almost felt like I was choking. Or I would be standing and he'd crack a joke and I'd laugh and I would fall and he'd have to run to catch me before I hit the floor. And so the running joke was, oh, that song SWV, and their group name was Sisters with Voices, but they sang a song called Weak. And it was, I get so weak in the knees, I can hardly speak. I lose all control. Something takes over me. Now they're talking about they're so in love. All of this happens with the guy. This was happening to me, and it had nothing to do with my little puppy love for my boyfriend. It actually is what I later realized was called cataplexy. Now, to add insult to injury, I start having what I thought were nightmares, but honestly, you all, it was not a nightmare. This was full impact. I would fall into a sleep paralysis, and then I would be able to hear and see things that terrified me. So one of the examples was I was in my parents' room, and I realized I couldn't move. And then what this figure is what appeared in the room. And when he opened his mouth, it was like these little bats flew out, and I'm terrified. And I'm sitting there going, Lord, please help me. Like, God, whatever this is, please take this away. If this is how it ends, Lord, oh, I don't know what's happening, but I need your help because I am seeing this in 100% living color. I can hear it, and I am terrified, and I don't know what to do. So, God, please make this stop. And then all of the little bats kind of sucked back in his mouth, and then he disappeared. And I was sitting there left with this feeling of what is really happening to me. Now, I put a note up here that says signs of teen substance abuse, because when I tried to share this with other people, word on the street was, hey, maybe she's into some other stuff, because I think she's hallucinating, or what, maybe she's into drugs, or she's sniffing markers or glue, you all, which was not the case. But people, when in the absence of truth, people will come up with their own narratives and stories, and it was not helping at all. So as I'm moving from junior high to high school, my body's of course changing, and so now the theory was, okay, well maybe are you sure she's not pregnant? When one of the doctors was like, oh, she's falling asleep all the time, and she's having these different changes. Maybe she's her body's changing because she's pregnant. And my mom was like, she's not. To the point where at that, you guys, my mom was like, we're done. I don't know what's going on with my child, but I know you all don't either, and it's none of the things you've suggested. Not so fun fact, the average time to diagnose narcolepsy is 8 to 10 years. So imagine going through these questions and experiences and symptoms and having no name to put to it. Which brings us to the happy part of the story. When I'm going through driver's training, and my driving instructor literally looked like the man from Miracle on 31st Street, except his beard was shorter. As I'm driving, he goes, hey, look at that billboard. Would you tell me what it says? I don't remember what I said. And evidently he realized that I was kind of sleep driving. And we pulled over, and he said, I think you may have something called narcolepsy. And I said, I don't use narcotics. And he was like, no, it's not that. It's a sleeping disorder. It was like my sister, it was either his sister or his sister-in-law has it. And I'm noticing what you're doing while you're driving, and it reminds me very much of that. Go to your doctor and ask them to refer you to a sleep specialist so that you can have a sleep test. Tell them you think you may have narcolepsy, because they won't initially just know what to do. And so I followed those steps, and I finally had a name to what was happening to me. Narcolepsy is a chronic neurological disorder of the sleep-wake cycle. Narcolepsy is for my version of it, with cataplexy is narcolepsy 1. And then I later learned that there's actually another version of narcolepsy where people don't have cataplexy. Not so fun fact, it's estimated that only 25% of people with narcolepsy ever get diagnosed. And my mom, had it not been for my diagnosis, my mother would have been one of those people that went undiagnosed, because we later found out she actually did have narcolepsy. So my road to diagnosis started with going to a sleep lab, and it actually looked more like a hotel room, which was very comforting to me since I was, young, and I didn't exactly know what was happening. During that time, it was an all-night sleep study, and they were able to hook me up to different electrodes to monitor my sleep, and it actually was a pretty pleasant experience. The treatment that I received after that, actually, I've been on a range of different treatments. I highlighted the one that says scheduled daytime naps, because that's been the one that's been the most consistent. So I was diagnosed with narcolepsy when I was 15. I am now 48. And if I had to pick something that has been consistently supportive and helpful, it would be those scheduled daytime naps. And different medications will work for different people in different ways at different seasons of your life. In addition to treatment, I also wish earlier on, and so I advocate this for everyone, that I had received social support. I wish I had realized back then that there were other groups and organizations, and I wasn't alone. I want to say the first 20 years of narcolepsy, I think I tried to just do it alone. And then finally, I think when social media came out and YouTube, I realized, wait, there's a huge, large community out there that I don't have to feel alone with. So on the rosy side of life with narcolepsy has not stopped me from doing anything. I was able to finish high school, finish college. I went on to be a teacher. I had a successful teaching career, in my opinion, because I got to be with little people, and I got to love on little people and watch them grow. And I was able to continue pursuing my education, which in high school I thought that was going to be difficult because I fell asleep every time I opened a book. So I honestly just learned how to do things differently. I learned how to speed read. I learned how to focus on different strategies for comprehension, just to kind of combat what I would lose sometimes when I was falling asleep in class. And I learned to be really honest and upfront with what, with narcolepsy, and sharing that with other people, especially like teachers or professors or speakers, so they realized I wasn't being rude in class, that I actually was dealing with an actual sleep disorder. And then it gave me a chance to share that with others. In addition to treatment, some of the things that have been super supportive is working at a place that does accommodate my needs. And so I do have flexible work hours. I am able to take those naps when I need to. I literally have a bed or a cot in my office right now. Being able to stand up and move around. They have order recording pins and what have you. Other things that have really improved my quality of sleep and just general with sleep hygiene. So not just taking medication, which has been beneficial to me and has allowed me to drive. For many years, my husband drove me to work and back from work. And I'm just so thankful that I'm now able to drive myself, because then it allows him to be able to explore other opportunities as well. So the future looks bright. I was able to get married and have children. I have 3 beautiful boys. I work at a place I love, supporting schools and supporting people. And with that in mind, one of the parts of my job is I get to speak sometimes to high schoolers. I'll show you a picture in a second. And my passion is for raising awareness in schools because of my early onset and because of how long it takes to be diagnosed. I believe early awareness is key to keeping people from having years of confusion, because honestly, when you're ill and you don't know what's happening, it can take you places, or people can mislabel or diagnose you with things you don't have, and then you're being medicated for things and the root cause is not being addressed at all, and that can take you places you really don't want to go. And so with that in mind, I do enjoy being able to go to schools. The school is in my hometown. I perform virtual assemblies, and I've been able to actually go in person and talk with students. And it never fails that I find someone who connects with the subject area on a very personal level. I also want to raise awareness for different organizations. I am fortunate to work at a very sleep-friendly organization at the university I work at. I want that to be everybody's story, so that not just for people with sleep disorders, but in general, respecting the need for the body to be able to rest and to be able to heal and be made whole, and to be able to accommodate all different types of disabilities and situations. And when I say disability, many times people don't take narcolepsy or insomnia or other forms of sleep disorders seriously. And it's just like, well, that's not actually a disability. And it was like, actually, it does hinder me from being able to do some of the things that other people do in a particular way. And I do need respectful accommodations to be able to be as efficient and effective as possible. So with that, I just want to thank Rising Voices for teaching me how to share my story and my voice, and for allowing me to know that there's other voices and I'm not alone. So keeping in mind, 1 in 5 Americans lives with some type of chronic sleep disorder, and there are resources and support available, so they don't have to be alone. One of the quotes from another Rising Voices speaker, Lindsay Kaiser, she says, "What I needed when I started was very different from what I need now." A lot of it has been me communicating my needs directly with my supervisor. And I just wanted to amen that. And if you need help on how to do that, you can go to Project Sleep. You can go to that sleep helpline for different ways to learn how to advocate for yourself on your job. Because what you need in one moment may definitely change. And that has been my story my whole life. So again, thank you for listening. If you don't mind, go ahead and look at that QR code and just respond, giving an evaluation, so that we know that people are able to see this. And my hope is that you can even visit www.project-sleep.com. And again, that's a picture of my mom, who would have went, who almost did, because I didn't get diagnosed till I was about 15. So my mom would have been in her 50s when she realized that she had narcolepsy, and started to then get treatment and support. Before that, they just joked she must need a lot of beauty sleep because she falls asleep so much. So, nope, this isn't beauty sleep. This is awareness for health and to be able to have the abundant life that we all deserve. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.